Welcome back, everyone. Today we have an important topic, just like we always do. We're going to talk about the racism and mess going on in this country, in particular, the state of New Jersey, as it relates to the recent topic with the young man who was told to cut his hair, his dreads, just so he can wrestle. Think about this. Cut his hair so he can wrestle. Now they said, oh, he's supposed to wear a cap, and if you wore the cap, then it wouldn't be a problem. A lot of you guys know what I'm talking about. Alright? I've never wrestled, played multiple sports, and each one of those sports, never had an issue with seeing guys on the field or wherever it was with long hair. But for some reason, this one case right here, they didn't want this young man to have his hair the way it was, and they didn't want him wrestling because of that, because of his hair. Had absolutely nothing to do with his performance. It had nothing to do with hygiene. It had nothing to do with giving him an advantage or the other wrestler an advantage. Because let's face it, you're not grabbing a person's hair in wrestling. No. You're not. So don't tell us that it was a reason because it was giving a person advantage. No. So you know what they decided to do is cut his hair. And did you see how they cut that young man's hair? When they cut it, they just like that. Regardless, even if they did it like this, they still had no right and no reason to cut the hair. Now, I want to just, give some kudos to the young man who allowed his hair to be cut, because he was very calm, and he took a loss, kind of, but not really. But he wanted to do it for his team, because there are a whole lot of people out there where they would say, no, you're not cutting my hair, no. Well, then your team's going to lose. He decided to do that. All right? So let's get back, first of all, before we even go into all of that, but let's get back to this issue where the lady's just cutting his hair right on the mat for no reason whatsoever. All throughout this country, kids are playing that sport, wrestling, with long hair. No one's cutting it. Right, kids? Hair flowing down their backs. Not a problem. Black kids, all over. He's not the first, not the last. Whole lot of them wearing dreads, wearing long hair. Nobody's snipping it. But within this climate, it's almost like we are going to humiliate you, young kid. We're going to humiliate you by making you cut your hair. But they didn't humiliate him. They didn't. They tried to, but they didn't. Now, there's no reason in him saying, no, you're not going to cut the hair. But he didn't say that. He didn't. But that's okay. But you see, it's obvious that he's a good wrestler. Yeah, but it's besides the point, but it's obvious. He beat the guy. He beat him convincingly. So what that school needs to do, first of all, before I get into the lady that was cutting the hair, or whoever told that lady to cut that boy's hair, the first thing you need to do is this. The school needs to somehow, I don't know how, compensate that young man. If he's a good wrestler, they need to help him get a wrestling scholarship. That's right, yes, a wrestling scholarship. Or some type of scholarship to move on to the next phase of his life. Because you're dealing with the young man who is a team player, all right, who can obviously wrestle, and there are a lot of schools out there, especially in the Midwest, where they're known for wrestling, and if they're not, he still needs to have a scholarship. The fact that he had to go through all of this, people say, "Oh, well, that's not right." Well, it is right. You know why? Because you tried to humiliate this young man, and now you have to work extra hard in restoring the dignity of this young man and his family. They need to put pressure on that school somehow. They need to be compensated somehow. Right now, there's a civil rights lawsuit they just put out a few days ago. Sounds good, but we want to see more progress. Yes, that referee should never ever be able to referee again. Just like that lady cut that young man's hair, that referee should be cut. This is the same referee that made disparaging remarks, racist remarks about someone else in the past while he was refereeing. Cut. Never again. The lady who cut the hair, the young lady, she says, "Oh, I was just following orders." Well, there are a lot of orders in life we don't follow because we know they're not right. Why don't they cut her hair? So she had a ponytail. Cut it. Cut it, cut it, cut it, cut it, cut it. See how she likes that? She wouldn't like it. She'd be outraged. And guess what? Within this society, within the state of New Jersey, they wouldn't have done it. If it was a sport where that young lady right there, that young lady, if she was of high school age and she had her hair long as can be, going down past her buttocks, past her butt, they still, so put it in a bun, and even if it was still long and sticking out, they would not have cut her hair. That's reality. So you know what? Her hair should be hacked, just like that. See how she likes that. And the person that actually had the nerve, the audacity to tell that young man he needs to have his hair cut, whoever gave those orders, they need their haircuts too. In chunks. Not just let that man just go all over the hair. Now this sounds silly, right? Yeah, it does sound silly. Alright? But my point is something needs to be done. Something. Not a "I'm sorry." No. Doesn't work that way. Compensation. Compensation not because, they're looking for something. No, compensation because what was done to that young man was unjust, racist, and wrong. Period. So you make sure that that young man is compensated. And the parents should be screaming right now to say, we're not going to have this anymore. It's time to stand up for what's right. And that's not right. And the other thing too, he had his headgear on. Okay, so now when he has his headgear on, the hair shouldn't be a problem anyway, because it's not. No. You can't make the excuse and say, well, the opponent may actually take his, rip his hair or do something like that. No, you can't use that excuse. Does the opponent rip a person's eye out in wrestling? No. Not supposed. So there's certain things, there are rules in the game, but you're not supposed to do that. I mean, let's face it, whether it is UFC wrestling, where the guy's hair is just as long as me, you can find a couple of them in professional UFC where they have dreads and they don't have to put caps on, and guess what? They're grappling. That's professional. College. Guys will have, they'll have their hair. They'll have it in the regular wrestling cap, not a problem. So why is all of a sudden with this situation it's a problem? Because if this was a problem all over, we would hear more cases of people having to be disqualified because of their hair. But we don't see it because it's this one case. They didn't like what they saw. The way this young man had his hair. And they said, how dare you? Take that mess off. Well, I'm going to tell you. This will not end until there's justice for that young man. Alright? Once again, y'all, appreciate it. Stay tuned until next time. Peace.